back to my video. You're probably coming to this video from my last video, which was a video in which I explained the stereotypes that Italians and Europeans have towards Nigerians and how they're mostly incorrect. If you haven't seen that video yet, just, here, you can watch that before you watch this one, because this one is just my travel vlog to Nigeria. From what I've seen, most vlogs concerning Nigeria either have a lot more talking than they do showing you what it's actually like and what's going on there, or they show you a lot of what's going on there, but not in a way that you can really see and highlight like the part of Nigeria that's thriving, because there's a large part of Nigeria that's thriving. That's another thing. People think it's a 1%, but it's not a 1%. I mean, there is a lot of poverty and income inequality in Nigeria, but there is also a middle class. There's a lot of people that went abroad and live abroad, and they are considered Nigerian middle class as well. My family, my dad, when he immigrated to America, he wasn't rich. He was the epitome of working class Nigerian. He had his dad that worked in the civil servant, and his mom who was a teacher. So he came from the normalest of normal backgrounds, but he had the opportunity to go to to go to America on some seasonal work, and one thing led to another. He was able to gain permanent residence there and start a life there and go up the ladder. And now he's considered a very successful person within Nigeria. It's not at all just what you might think, and I'm happy that I finally got the chance to go back. I never could go in the beginning when I was younger because my mom and my dad aren't exactly friends, and my mom was always afraid that my dad would run off with me to Nigeria. So she said, when you're 18, you can do whatever you want. But when I was 18, I started university, and so I never really had time to go. And then I started working, and it was just getting into this point where I was always making excuses to go later, and then at one point last year I was just like, no, I'm going to Nigeria next year. I'm going to go. And so that's what I did, and this was my trip. First, I landed in Lagos. I actually lost a whole day of vacation because my Alitalia flight was 2 hours late and I missed my connection from London to Lagos, which was annoying. Not even gonna talk about that. So my first night, I spent it in Lagos. We stayed at this hotel. It was actually a really nice hotel, and it didn't cost much. It was like $47 a night. I had jollof rice for my first meal, and then we went to bed. This trip was amazing because it was the first time I was going to Nigeria. It was the first time I was seeing my father's country. I didn't grow up with my dad. I grew up with my mom in a very precarious situation, and so things were a little bit different. Both of my parents came from middle class, working class families in their respective countries. My dad actually had to take out a loan to get to America. Both him and my mom actually had major troubles in the economic crisis. My dad apparently more so than my mom, like even went bankrupt, essentially. And then after, more or less around the time that I moved to Italy, when things started going better for the American economy, things started going better for both of my parents. So in the end, my mom ended up retiring early to Jamaica. My dad found another job, and in these last 5-10 years, worked his way up the ladder, and now he makes very good money in corporate America. And so it's really interesting to see how our lucks just changed in life, because I grew up poor. How poor, you're probably thinking? Like, poor in the sense that it was winter in Connecticut and the house didn't even have heat. There were times where you couldn't eat as much as you wanted because there was really a limited amount of food in the house. That kind of poor, that's the kind of poverty. I grew up in America, and when I went back to Nigeria with my dad, we were basically millionaires. Yeah, you guys know me. You guys know me. I'm a poor girl at heart. Like, I'm always talking about how much things cost. My whole goal in life is essentially to not be poor when I grow up. And so it was very crazy to go back and suddenly have money. Like, when we were there, we had a private driver. And in Nigeria, that's the thing that unfortunately matters. Nobody cares what skin color you are. What tribe you belong to is kind of important, but the whole point is, like, if you have money, you can really do anything you want. And so it definitely made the trip better, because I wouldn't have liked the trip as much probably if I had to walk everywhere in the heat, didn't have access to air conditioning, which is what a lot of poor Nigerians have to go through. So I can understand why they would want to leave that situation. Like I said, you don't have a government that's taking care of you. You have a government that's like exploiting you essentially. So I can totally understand why people would leave, but I'm kind of sad that they're leaving to certain countries like Italy kind of obscured the truth to Nigeria, and people think that because they're leaving, Nigeria is this hellhole. I mean, I don't know, people leave Italy every single day. More Italians leave Italy than immigrants come into Italy, and nobody's saying that Italy is a shithole. I mean, I don't know, I just don't understand the double standard that there is for African countries. Another really cool thing about this whole trip is that I got to see firsthand Yoruba culture. Let me tell you guys, so Nigeria, like I said, can be broken up into a million different ways. There are the two major religions, Islam and Christianity. It's pretty much split 50-50 in terms of the population, but there's also many people that still follow the indigenous religions that go with their tribes, and they have polytheistic beliefs. Specifically, the biggest tribes are the Hausa, the Yoruba, and the Igbo. I am from the Yoruba tribe, and they inhabit the southwest portion of the country. And within the Yoruba tribe, again, you have that 50-50 breakdown of Islam and Christianity. And then you have, you know, people that practice the various Yoruba religion. Actually, the Yoruba religion is quite popular around the world. There's like people practice it in Brazil, Cuba, even in the United States. I saw there was a Yoruba village. So you might have heard of Yoruba from Beyonce's Lemonade video, but I'm telling you that Yoruba is an actual thing. So yeah, the tribe has its own religion. They have their own language. The language is actually, for me, insanely hard because it's not a Neo-Latin language. It's completely different. It has tones. Within the Nigerian political system, which is a presidential system, they have a president and an executive branch and, you know, the normal stuff. It was modeled after the US government, I guess. Within that system, each tribe has their own like traditional methods of ruling. The Yoruba were traditionally monarchists. They had kings and queens and royal families and little kingdoms within Yorubaland. Even today, those kings and queens and royal families still exist, although they don't have that much real power. They don't have real power, it's more of a perceived power and a traditional power. Within the Yoruba people, you also have different like groups of Yoruba people. Like it really just keeps on breaking down. And I'm part of the Egba group of Yoruba, and basically the Egbas are from this city called Abeokuta, because if you say it wrong, Abeokuta means under the rock, and if you say it wrong, it's gonna be something like beside the rock, and it changes everything. And then the next day we went to Ibadan, which is the capital of Oyo State. We stayed with one of my dad's classmates, one of my dad's old classmates and childhood friends who he's still friends with. And this guy, so awesome, so inspirational. Like he's been through so much in life, hit rock bottom and then came back up. And now he's basically a media mogul. He's an accountant by trade. He has a TV station called Impact Africa TV. He decided that he was going to start the first Nigerian business radio. Then he has Impact House, which is the structure where he houses all of these projects. And he also started his Impact Business School, where he teaches people the trade of becoming business people like he is. And he let us stay with him for the first 3 days of my trip, and he was also a huge help because one of the main reasons I went to Nigeria was because I wanted to get my Nigerian passport. Nigeria, like Italy, has jus sanguinis, and so I took advantage of it and I got my Nigerian passport because it's only being a citizen of Nigeria or a citizen of West Africa that you can really access all of the economic opportunities that there are there, because there are a lot of investment opportunities. There are so many opportunities to make money in Nigeria, and I wanted to be a part of this like renaissance. Nigeria is going up and I wanted to be a part of that. The economist in me couldn't miss an opportunity to invest and better help develop my father's country. And so the whole point of this trip was for me to get my Nigerian passport there. And so we were in Ibadan for that too. That was an experience that I'll probably save for another day. I kept joking that it's a good thing that I went to Nigeria from Italy and not directly from America, because if I hadn't lived in Italy, a place of chaos, for 5 years, I would have never been prepared to be in a place like Nigeria and try to carry out business in a place like Nigeria, because it's very, think Italy, but up a couple notches, okay? Like, that's the only way I can describe it. The same things we complain about in Italy, people not knowing how to do their jobs, people not wanting to help you, there being long bureaucratic processes, and everything you can think of, but like times 5. And so we had to do a bunch of bureaucratic things while we were there in Ibadan. But after the bureaucratic processes were over, we did have some fun. We got to go to a wildlife reserve. We got to go to a recreational center, which was really interesting because you had like stores and bars, and you could just see the Nigerian middle class out and having fun. Let me see if you guys can spot the girl that was doing a virtual reality game. I mean, there were things in Nigeria that honestly I don't even have here in Milan. Like, they have Uber in Nigeria. I can't just pick, I can't use Uber normally in Milan because they outlawed the normal Ubers. They had virtual reality games in Ibadan. Not even Lagos, but Ibadan. What? Based on everything they tell me about Africa and Nigeria, why on earth would I find this thing here, you know? Another random thing that I just love about Yoruba people is that the tradition is so rich, and there's just so much. There's so much. Like in Yoruba, even greeting people is like a ceremonial thing. The way you greet people in Yoruba, first of all, verbally, there's not really a general hello, goodbye. There's good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. They're all super specific. And when you meet people for the first time, you don't handshake, you don't hug, you don't kiss on 2 cheeks, but you bow. And there's a certain bow for women, there's a certain bow for men, and the bows are different depending on how much higher up the person that you're greeting is to you in terms of age or in terms of status. So that was confusing. And I did have some gaffes because, you know, being from the West, it was just my idea to just handshake people, and apparently handshaking people that are older than you without being approached with them handshaking you is very rude. And that happened to me twice. But then my dad told them that I'm American, and they were like, oh, okay, good. Because we were about to say what the... So we ran into the friends of my dad's friend, and it was a husband and wife. And so I went to handshake the wife after everybody had finished greeting everybody. I handshake the wife. It's like, my name is Mattia. And she was like she, you can see on her face. And I was just like, oh no, what did I do? What did I do? And that's when they explained to me the whole thing about, yeah, you're not supposed to handshake. You're supposed to bow. And whenever you're in doubt, you just put your hands behind your back and go like this. And it was awkward, but it was funny. Cultural differences. Another cool thing about Yoruba culture is that like they have this huge importance on names. Everybody is given a very specific, well thought out name. There's a whole ceremony that goes into naming a child. And my dad was telling me about mine because I knew that I had a naming ceremony in New Jersey, but I didn't know to what extent. Apparently my dad followed all of the Yoruba tradition. It was 8 days of festivity, and I guess on the 8th day they killed a goat in New Jersey. I don't know. And also on the 8th day, they called my grandfather in Nigeria, who ended up picking out my name. And my name, which you guys don't know because I use a nome di arte on the internet to just, you know, keep my personal life and my internet life separate. And also because I know y'all couldn't read or pronounce my real name anyways. But my real name is Motiat Abiola Olatunbi. And basically, Motiat is Arabic, and it's an Arabic name to show that my father is a Muslim. He's a Yoruba, but he's Muslim. And Abiola means, Abi is like we birthed this person, and Ola means wealth. So this person was born into wealth. I told my dad that, not very accurate. There's another name that's like this person comes into wealth throughout into their life, and I said that would have been more accurate. I think it's Adeola or Adesola. But whatever, it's Abiola. I was named after MKO Abiola. You guys should look him up. Really interesting person. Also from Abeokuta. And my last name, Ola Tumbi, is basically another way to say born into wealth, because Ola again means wealth, B means birth, and Tun, I forgot what it means, but you get it. And so, and everybody has these special names. And it was so cool being in Nigeria because my whole life I grew up with people mispronouncing my name. They didn't say Matiat, but Matia. And that's where Tia came from. And also having a name that no one else ever had. I really thought I was the only Matiat Abiola in the whole world. And in 7 days in Nigeria, I met like 3 Matiats and a million Abiolas. Abiola is a really common unisex name in Nigeria. And so that was quite interesting. At least for the Yoruba people in Yorubaland, that was the first time that I saw true like religious tolerance and religious cohesion. And in the Yoruba, within the Yoruba tribe, they're very, very open-minded and laid back. So Yoruba is one of the few tribes where you have a real mixing of the religions. Like for Yoruba people, it's not weird for the dad to be one faith, the mom to be another faith, and then the kids to be completely different faiths or have no faiths at all. So the fact that my mom is Christian and my dad is Muslim would be totally normal in Yoruba, because in the West it's always like Islam, 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 Judaism, 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 Christianity, 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 and it's always a problem. It was nice to be in an environment where that didn't matter because you had bigger things to worry about. You had to think of the electricity that was about to go off. You had to think about the blackout of the day. Nigeria is a place where the government doesn't do a lot for the people because at the end of the day, like I said, Nigeria has endless resources. Nigeria has oil, Nigeria has wind, Nigeria has farmland, Nigeria has a workforce, like able-bodied people, 200 million people that can work. Nigeria has gold. Nigeria has literally every resource that you can imagine, but nobody to govern well. And whenever somebody pops up that wants to change the status quo or govern well, they kill them. So that's Nigeria's issue. It's really insane to me that a country can have all of these resources, and yet for the average person, you're lucky to have 2 hours of electricity consecutively. The government there really profits off of scamming people, and it's just so annoying, and there's very little you can do about it. So the only hope for Nigeria, in my opinion, is the private sector, and that is the part of the society that's making a difference for average Nigerians today. After Ibadan, we went to Abeokuta, which is my dad's town. Abeokuta has its own history as well, and we met my grandfather. I met my grandfather for the first time in my life, the one that gave me my name, and it's just such a interesting person because it's so different from their culture, is so different from the culture that I grew up in. I mean, I grew up with my mom in the Christian faith, and so this was the first time I was coming into real contact with my Muslim side of the family. And you know, everybody had Muslim names. My grandfather actually had multiple wives, just like his father had multiple wives, and for them it's totally normal. It was interesting, and my grandfather also had a very interesting professional life because he was actually a civil servant, which is interesting because y'all know how I feel about public workers. Yeah. And so I got to ask him a bunch of questions about, you know, what was it like working for the Nigerian government, both during colonial times, because Nigeria just got its independence in the 60s, and also you were there when there was the switch. My grandfather was in the service from the 50s to the 80s, I guess. And so he really saw it all, and it was really priceless to be able to meet him for the first time and talk about all of these things. And it's a moment that I'll really cherish forever. And so at one point we even got to go and see Olumo Rock, which has a great story behind it, and the whole city of Abeokuta. Before there was Abeokuta and the Egba people, there was the Oyo Empire. And the Oyo Empire started in the 1300s and went on all the way until the British colonized Nigeria. And it was very powerful, one of the most powerful kingdoms and monarchies in all of Western Africa, and it was about the size of half of Italy. In the 1830s, the Egba people decided that they wanted to break away from the Oyo Empire, and this rock mountain played a pivotal role in that because it served as a place where they would like hide out during the intertribal wars and where people could, the warriors and their families would live underneath the rock. Essentially, and so the caves where the families would live, one of them is still standing, the other one's collapsed unfortunately. And so today you can go and sit inside the caves of Oluma Rock that in the 1800s these Egba warriors were fighting against the kingdom to have their independence. And eventually they did get their independence and they named their city-state Abeokuta, the city under the rock, and even today it is still there.
lórí Olúmọ máa yọ̀ lórúkọ Ẹ̀gbá o àwọn ọmọ Lísàbí máa yọ̀ máa yọ̀ máa yọ̀ o lórí Olúmọ máa yọ̀ máa yọ̀ máa yọ̀ o lórí Olúmọ Abẹ́òkúta ìlú Ẹ̀gbá n ò ní gbàgbé rẹ n ò gbé ọ lékè ọkàn mi bí ìlú odò Ọya èmi ó máa yọ̀ lórí Olúmọ èmi ó ṣògo yìí lọ́kàn mi wípé ìlú olókìkí o làwọn Ẹ̀gbá ń gbé máa yọ̀ máa yọ̀ máa yọ̀ o lórí Olúmọ máa yọ̀ máa yọ̀ máa yọ̀ o lórí Olúmọ máa yọ̀ o máa yọ̀ máa yọ̀ máa yọ̀ o lórí Olúmọ máa yọ̀ máa yọ̀ máa yọ̀ o lórí Olúmọ maya maya means I will rejoice on the top of Olúmọ rock, composed by Fela grandfather in 1922. Of Ogun, different pronunciation. Ogun, god of iron. Ogun, war. Ogun, medicine. Ogun, property or inheritance. Ogun, sweat or perspiration. Another Ogun figure 20, 2 and 0. Ogun. Ogun, long or longevity. Ogun, to climb. I should climb Olúmọ rock today.
And it's so interesting because it's not a huge city. There's like 200,000 people, but I tell you, there are so many famous Nigerians from Abeokuta, like Fela Kuti. There was this princess that went on to be the goddaughter of Queen Victoria. There are so many politicians, MK Abiola. So many interesting people come from Abeokuta, and so it was really cool to go to the source and see that. There's such an interesting history. Like, how is it that I go my whole life and I didn't even know that there was an empire like the Oyo Empire? I didn't know about the Oyo Empire until I went there right now. Yorubaland has a lot of different cities. Like, I went to Ibadan, which is the capital of Oyo State. As you can probably imagine, it was like the remnants of the Oyo Empire. And Abeokuta is the capital of Ogun State. And Ogun is pretty important because there's the river Ogun, which cuts through a lot of parts of Yorubaland and ends in Lagos, which Lagos is the capital of Lagos State. And it's also the economic hub of all of Nigeria. It's basically the Milan of Nigeria. And so I stayed in those three sections and got to see many different parts of Yorubaland. I didn't go to the north of Nigeria because, like I told you, it's very different. And I also didn't go to the southeast, which is more Igbo land. But it was interesting to see that it's not just Lagos that is doing well for itself. I went to Abeokuta and I was surprised by how developed it was. And even Ibadan, being more north and more inward, was also, it was cool. I saw no starving children. I don't know where these starving African children are that you guys say are in all of Nigeria, because I didn't see them.
Julian.
other. We hit up the fabrics market, which fabrics in Nigeria, that's a whole nother thing. Like, y'all, I could go on for days about my trip to Nigeria. This could have been multiple videos, but I know that it'll be more effective if I just put it into one. You guys know Ankara probably, and the dashikis that they wear. All of these things, I don't want to say they originated in Abeokuta, but Abeokuta is basically the source. Like, people go from different city-states and different cities in Nigeria to go to Abeokuta and get their materials for their clothing from there. So I got to go to the source, see how all the clothing and the prints were made. And you guys, I'm seriously thinking of starting like a clothing line designed by me that meshes Western influences with African influences. And yeah, that's kind of, that's what my new project will hopefully be, because I saw that, you know, with the prices and everything there, it would be pretty easy to do, and it would be an easy way to employ many people in Nigeria, make the situation better in Nigeria, and also like export and spread African culture and educate people to the world. So that's one of my like next projects. I have a couple projects going on here in Italy, but I'm already looking ahead at the things that I want to do in Nigeria as well. One of the last things that we saw in Abeokuta was the African Drum Festival, which they put on, and it was so interesting because it started out as the Nigerian Drum Festival, but then before you knew it, everybody on the continent wanted to participate. So this was the 4th annual African Drum Festival, and there were people from everywhere. There were people from UK, there were people from Haiti, like everybody was there just to, you know, embrace and listen to African drumming and see African performances. I saw so many cool people, so many cool outfits. There were the Yoruba royalty that I told you guys about. It was literally so interesting. I guess these are some very important people. last day we went to Lagos. It was a Friday, and I got to go to Nike Art Gallery or Nike Art Gallery. It was this amazing place owned by this woman named Chief Nike, and I can't remember her last name, but I'm gonna write it. And she's basically traveled all over the world to find and commission African art, specifically Nigerian art. She has multiple galleries throughout Nigeria, and we got to go to the Lagos one.
This competition was done in Italy.
Oh wow!
Look at the face. This is the mouth, this is the nose.
Wow.
So then you start to see the faces. This is the eye, this is the nose, this is do you see?
Yeah.
So then you now look, you will
There's
see
another one.
a lot of faces here.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Which was 4 floors of hundreds and hundreds of Nigerian art pieces. Everything in there was made by a different Nigerian, and it was insane to see because it was so. I tried to take some video, but the videos really don't even do it justice. Like, I'm talking 3D paintings, drum chairs, like chairs that are half drums and half chairs. I was amazed. My dad was amazed. This woman was amazing. If you get a chance to go to Lagos, you have to stop by Nike's Art Gallery. I was just blown away. Aside from Nike's Art Gallery, we did go to the beach. Lagos has a lot of beaches because it's next to the Atlantic Ocean. So there's Lagos, mainland Lagos, and then there are some barrier islands and between the barrier islands and Lagos mainland, you have the lagoon, and after the barrier islands, you have the Atlantic Ocean. So they're building a lot of new city structures on the islands because you have like Victoria Island. They're building up the Echo Atlantic building complex right now, which is supposed to be like Nigeria's Dubai. That's what they're aiming for. And the first building that they've built is already sold out because it's going to be like a bunch of apartment complexes and some, stores and cafes. It's really, really cool. And so that has been built on reclaimed land of the Atlantic Ocean. And it was just insane. These are things that, if you just follow Western media, you would never think happen in Africa. And if you follow just the Italian media, you would never think happen in Nigeria. I mean, I saw a lot of stuff in Lagos. They have these little yellow taxis, and they have their own version of like a My Taxi app to call and reserve their little yellow taxi. They're building a metro line in Lagos right now. It was really something that it's like, I swear, Nigeria is the world's best kept secret because I don't know how all of these misconceptions can exist when all of these things are happening. The last day that we were in Nigeria, we went to my dad's friend, the one that we stayed with, Mr. Oladejo, the mogul. He was being honored with a community service award from the city of Ibadan. So we went to that ceremony. Unfortunately, we didn't get to stay long because to get there, we sat in 4 hours of traffic, and to leave, we sat in 4 hours of traffic. And I had the flight the next day, and I wasn't missing any more flights. So we just got to stay for a little bit, but here's some footage of that. I got to, for the first time, dress up in Nigerian traditional attire. I had a custom-made dress. I had a custom-made gele. What I was wearing was not a turban, but a gele, which is traditional Yoruba headwear for the female. And it was so cool. I'm kind of sad that we didn't get to stay for the after party because with Yoruba ceremonies like this, there's always a huge after party where everybody just gets together and dances, and it would have been crazy. So yeah, you guys, that was my vlog. I hope that you guys liked my trip to Nigeria. I loved it. I'm going back ASAP. I'm actually looking at doing my birthday party there, my 24th birthday party, because I gotta go back. This can't wait another 24 years. Nigeria is one of the places to be right now, I think. Lagos specifically, there's so much happening, and I'm just so happy that I got the chance to share it with you guys. So remember to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Leave me a comment down below of what you guys thought. Did Nigeria surprise you? Tell me something that you learned, and as always, I will see you guys in my next one. Mwah.